Hi there, welcome to That Board Game Show. My name is James Wood, and today I'm going to show you Meadow, a game all about exploring and observing the beautiful natural world. Designed by Klemens Kalicki, with art by Karolina Kijak, and published by Rebel Studios. In Meadow, you are a wanderer, exploring the countryside, and racing to observe the most interesting plants, animals and landscapes, while at the same time collecting various souvenirs along the way. You will be doing this by collecting these different cards and placing them out in your own private tableau. At the end of the game, the player with the most points is the winner. Today I will be showing you the solo game, which does a pretty good job of representing what you will be doing on a turn in a multiplayer game as well, by simulating what another player would do with this little solo Automa deck over here, which is made up of all of the action tiles from all the players not playing the game. You'll see how it works in action, because what I'm going to do is I'm just going to play out a few turns, show you how it works, explain some of the scoring, and give you a sense of how the game plays. So with that said, let's dive in with the first turn. At the start of the game, each player is given a set of action tiles. With 3 or more players, you will not use this question mark action tile, and each player will only have 4 action tiles to choose from. In a 2-player or 1-player game, you are given this extra bonus action tile, which is basically a wild joker. It can be used as any of these other 4. And you'll see how these work shortly. The first thing we need to do at the beginning of the game is choose our starting hand of cards. Now, in a multiplayer game, you go around the table clockwise, and each player chooses a row of cards and takes all the cards in that row, plus 1 card from this north deck. This north deck contains slightly more advanced cards for later in the game, and this deck will replace this south deck over here at the midpoint of the game. In the solo game, I choose my cards in exactly the same way, and then we simply discard all the cards in this top row, plus 1 from the north deck, into a face-down discard pile, which will represent Rover's score at the end of the game. And I failed to mention that the AI in this game is called Rover. So we are competing against a roving, automated adventurer out there looking around the countryside, and we're trying to see more interesting stuff than they do. Alternatively, when you start the game, if you're playing for the first time, you can simply give every player 2 south, 1 east, 1 west, and 1 north card to represent the cards that you get from this starting tableau. You'll see these arrows over here pointing down to these 2 columns. These are all these south cards, all these cards are west cards, and all these cards over here are east cards. The west cards are primarily made up of landscapes and souvenirs that you will be collecting. The central column, the south and north cards, are mostly animals and plants that you can observe. And then these east cards are primarily landscape types that you will see. So you'll have trees, this sort of hilly area, more of a forestry area, this is rocky terrain, etc. So this is the terrain, the landscapes, and the animals and plants. So I'm going to take this top row, because one of the things you want to look at the beginning of the game is over on this board here, which is our round tracker. We will move this marker over at the end of each round to track the turns. As you can see, playing on this solo board, we will play over 6 rounds. And we also have a couple of these spots blocked off in a solo or 2-player game. So we'll slide those in, and you'll see why that's important later on. And we also have these 3 markers at the campfire board over here. When you've gone out exploring and adventuring and finding stuff, you're going to come back to the campfire and gather around and tell stories about what you have seen. And the person who has seen the specific sets of stories that are wanted at the campfire here will score some bonus points at the end of the game. So looking at that, I can see that we want mushrooms, houses, and these wild animals. That looks like a wolf. So wolf-type foxes, that sort of thing. So glancing at the tableau of cards available here, I can see that there's only 1 card available here with the mushroom, There are no cards with the house and no cards with this predator symbol. So for my starting hand, I'm going to take these cards from this top row into my hand. And let's put my hand over here so that you can see what I'm working with. We will refresh this. Oh, and I will take one card from this north deck, add that to my hand, and that is a landscape. And you can see the requirements down here. This row of icons here is the requirements needed to play this card. So that's a little bit more complicated than these, where there's a lot less requirements. So these north cards are a bit more involved to get to. But by starting with one, it gives you a focal point to build your strategy towards. So we will add that to my hand. We will deal out new cards over here. And then Rover will take that row of cards. So had I taken any of these other rows, they would have taken this selection. They will take that row, plus one north card that I don't get to see, and we'll put that face down in their discard pile. So that is going to be their tableau of cards, simulating playing with another player. And at the end of the game, I will count all the points in this deck against all the points that I've accumulated and see who won. And then there's a little chart at the back of the rulebook that explains how well you did as an explorer. Another beautiful touch in this game is this card index over here, where every single card has got a tiny little number on it, which you definitely won't be able to see on the overhead camera. And that number is represented in this card index here, which gives you a little history of every one of these cards. Well, not history, an explanation of what it is. So let's say, for instance, we want to know what this represents, this mushroom. What kind of fungus is this? We can look over here and see this is card B22. So now we can come to our card index. And we'll go to B, those are all A's. There's some B's. 22 is wood cauliflower. It's even got its Latin name, which is Sparaeus crispa. Wood cauliflower is edible and tastes like nuts. Oh, there you go. So you can actually learn some useful information about plants and animals as you play the game. So every single one of these cards has that number hidden somewhere in it. This butterfly is number B38. So let's go find B38. That is a tree grayling. This species is associated with coastal and inland dunes, exposed sand in the middle of pine forests, moors, and sandy fallow lands. It is often found in Mediterranean countries. So you can learn all about all the animals and plants as you play the game. I will set that aside for now. Just know that it's there, and as you play, I would highly recommend using that and looking the stuff up as you go, especially during downtime between turns. If you're playing with 3 or 4 players and you're waiting for your turn to come around while people are deciding what cards they want, you can grab hold of this card index and look up all your plants and animals and learn something about them. So let's replenish these cards over here. We're not getting any of the things we want for the campfire over here, which is rather unfortunate. And now we will start the game. And when playing solo, Rover over here always goes first. And how Rover takes a turn couldn't be more simple. We take one of these action tiles from their stack, we flip it over, we look at the color, we see this as green, or blue, or aqua, or turquoise. And we put this green tile where the number on the Rover card here tells us. So number 2 will go there, and now they will take the second card up in that column. So they will take this salamander lizard frog thing worth 1 point, and they will put that into their deck. We will replenish that, and that's literally how the automa works. Couldn't be more simple, nice and streamlined, and it allows you to just play out your turns and do your own little set collection goals as best you can. So now allow me to explain how all of these tiles work. So we have number 1. You've seen how the drafting works. We place a tile and we take the card matching the number. And then they all have a top half and a bottom half. So the top half on all the cards with the number, and then this symbol here means to play a card. So that is how you play cards from your hand to your starting tableau. Oh, and one final thing. During setup, every player is given one of these double-sided cards to choose from, and you can choose the beetle side with this leaf, or you can choose the caterpillar side with this grass symbol, and you choose that after you've selected your starting hand of cards. So each player will start with a slight variation on their starting tableau. I will start with this caterpillar side, because in my starting hand of cards I got this caterpillar with the leaf symbol, so I would rather have the grass symbol available to me. So, circling back to your action tiles, every one of them at the top allows you to play one card from your hand, or you can use the bottom half of the action, and the bottom square is when you place one of your tiles over here at the campfire, you do the bottom half. So, tile number 1 over here allows you to take any card from the central display, which can be incredibly handy when this starts to clog up, because as you can see now, if I wanted, for instance, this beetle here, I can't place my 1 over there because that space is now blocked. Now I can get it by putting my 2 over there, but now we're blocking that up even further. So being able to place this out over here and get any card from here can be very useful later in the game. And whenever you place one of your tiles over here, that is when you can see if you have fulfilled the objectives of the campfire board. So if you have in your tableau a house and a mushroom, you take the lowest number one of your little gold tiles here and you place it on the log between the house and the mushroom. And in a multiplayer game, that's a race to see who can do that first, because once a log is blocked off like that, nobody else can now place a marker in that space. And as you can see, these numbers increase, so we go from 2 to 3 to 4. Each player only has 3 of these. So that is a potential 4, 5, 9 points to get from the campfire board over there. Okay, then your number 2 tile here has this little landscape symbol. So if you place that at the campfire, you can take 2 of these landscape tiles from the supply, placing them in front of you. And these are where you can place these landscape cards later in the game. All the other cards, all the vertical cards, get played out in your tableau here. The landscape cards, you have to have these landscape spots available. And then when you play a card into a landscape slot like that, you flip the tile over to indicate that that has been used. So using your number 2 is how you get more of these to observe more landscapes. Basically, it's a little picture of a road. It's representing you weaving your way down the road further, whereas all these other things are representing you exploring out into the meadows, the fields, the woods, etc. Okay. Number 3 over here, when you use this tile up at the campfire, you can draw 3 cards from any one deck. Pick one to keep in your hand and return the others to the bottom. Number 4 here lets you play 2 cards. So when you go over here, you can play 2 cards from your hand, because you'll notice that none of these others have that play a card symbol. So when you come to the campfire, you're doing these other bonus actions, but you're not playing cards out of your hand. And you haven't technically seen the thing until it's in your tableau. So you want to be playing cards as much as you can. And then lastly, we have this wild question mark one, which can stand in for any of these. It represents any number and it represents any of these bonuses. So I can now decide what I need to collect in order to play. So I want to start by playing cards, naturally. And how you play cards is based on these little symbols. So let's say, for instance, that I want to play this mushroom over here. I have to play this card onto another card in my tableau that has the leaf or this, I think that's like a swampy type of landscape. You can see I do not have any leaves or swamps, but if I play this caterpillar, if I have this down in my play area here, Then I have the leaf, so I could play this mushroom on the leaf like that, but I can't do that right now because I don't have that other landscape type. So this mushroom can only be found in a certain area. So I need to explore and find that area to be able to actually see that mushroom. So with that knowledge, I would like to find this type of landscape. I'm not seeing it anywhere out here. As you can see, these ones on the side here are the ones with the terrain types. I see here there's this caterpillar with this hill terrain, and I have this butterfly over here that wants a caterpillar and a hill terrain. So I'm going to take my number 1 action tile, slot it in there, take this caterpillar hill terrain card into my hand. Then I will play a card using that symbol. I will play this caterpillar and hill terrain card. And when you play a card, the placement matters quite a bit. So you have to play it left or right of your existing lineup of cards when it's one of these terrain types. And once it's there, it's locked in place for the remainder of the game. And that will make sense and matter more later in the game when you have certain cards that require certain adjacency rules as well. So that was my entire turn. Drew a card, played a card. We will replenish this spot. And it is Rover's turn. Rover will flip over a tile. It's number 2. And now you can see that they want to put this number 2 over here, but I've already occupied that space. So they will go to the next available clockwise location. So they will place it over there instead. And they will draw this little flying bat squirrel thing. Plop that in their deck, replace the card. And play will continue like this until everyone has played all of their tiles, at which point we will end the round, move on, and continue playing. So what do I need next? I have the hills, so I'd like to play this butterfly. So now I would be smart to look out here and see if there's anything that requires a butterfly. There is not. But there is this little bunny rabbit over here that wants the leaf and the hills. And I have this caterpillar that can get the leaves. So yes, let's get that. I'll take my number 2 tile over here. I'll slide this in there, taking the little bunny rabbit. I can't play it just yet because I haven't played this caterpillar yet. I will play the butterfly. And now I can play the butterfly on either of these spaces because I need to have a caterpillar and a hill token in my tableau. And then when it has multiple symbols like that, you can play it on either of them. So I could play it on this caterpillar here, even though the terrain doesn't match. Or I can play it on this terrain over here, even if it didn't have a caterpillar. I will simply play it on here, because that looks more like the terrain that it's interested in. So that caterpillar just turned into a beautiful butterfly. We will flip over a tile for Rover. And Rover has yellow 4. Yellow 4 goes over there. I forgot to replenish this. So that will get replenished there. Rover will take the horseshoe. Rover found a horseshoe somewhere in the fields. And we will replenish that. So you're basically trying to see as much as possible. You want to see as many different animals, as much terrain, etc. And you also want to pay attention to the points in the corners here. So let's see what else I can see. Going for one of these trees would not be a terrible idea, because I can see quite a few things out here want trees. This bird wants trees. This fence over here wants a tree. This fence over here wants a tree and this. So this card would let me play this card. So this is where you start building your strategy forward. You sort of start planning, okay, if I can get this card, then I can get this card, then I can get that card, etc. And sometimes people swoop in and take the card that you are eyeballing. Now, I'm going to use my number 3 over here to get this tree, because I can see the only way for me to get this fence is to use my number 4, because both these side spaces are blocked off. So I would have to place my 4 there to get the fence. Therefore, using my 3 here to get the tree, and replenishing that, and now we hope that Rover does not take that card. Let's see what he does. What's he gonna do? What you gonna do, Rover? Rover, Rover, Rover. He's gonna rove over here and he's gonna take this 4-leaf clover, which for some reason has a flower symbol. That 4-leaf clover thinks it's a flower, or whoever picked that 4-leaf clover thought it was a flower. Or maybe it's a flower that looks like a 4-leaf clover. Ooh, a snake! Okie dokie, back to my turn. I'm going to snaffle up that fence. Ooh, I did not play a card on my last turn. Whoopsie. So I'm going to play this tree over there. Now I'm going to take a card. I'm going to place my 4 over here, grab this fence, and reveal a little housey. Now we want house and mushroom. So if I can get some of this rocky terrain, I can play that house. That looks like something to shoot for. This goes in my hand, and now you can play any card from your hand. You don't have to play the one you just drew. So I could play this bunny rabbit because it can go on either of these spaces, or I can just play this fence on this tree over here. Let's see. Now I need to look at what's going to be coming up soon so that I can ascertain what I need to hang on to for later use. And naturally, playing with multiple players, you'd have these cards all in your hand. You wouldn't be leaving them out on display for everybody to see what your strategy is. Okay, so if I were to play bunny rabbit on here or here, I'll be covering up a tree or a butterfly. If I play this fence over here, I'll be covering up the tree, because that's the only place I could play that fence. And now let's see what we need out here. Does anything out here need a fence? No. Does anything out here need this little paw print? No. Oh my. Well, that does, but it needs other things as well. Yeah, sometimes the card display just does not work in your favor. Okay, so I'm just going to play this caterpillar actually and keep my options open for later. So now I've got 2 of these leaf terrain types. And one thing to be aware of is that you can't have more than 10 cards in a lineup like this. You can build your cards as high as you want, so I can keep stacking cards up on this stack over here, but you can't have more than 10 terrain cards at the base of your tableau. Okie dokie. Rover will go. Rover, Rover, Rover. He's Rover, Rover, Rovering. He wants to go there. He can't. So he goes to the next available clockwise spot, all the way around there. He takes that card. And it's my turn again. Right, I am actually, I've just realized, working towards this card quite easily. I have the tree and I have 2 of these leaf symbols. So if I take this tree over here, I have what I need to play this landscape. So let's just do that. I'm going to use my wild over here to play that over there, representing a 1. I'm going to take this tree and I'm going to play it right away over there. Actually, let's play it over on this side and just break up my terrain a little bit, just in case I need options later. And what I'll do is I'll keep these ones stacked so you can just see their symbols until I play them, so that I can keep my tableau and my hand of cards a little bit more separate. We will replenish that, and that is the end of round 1. Because Rover went first, I have just placed my last tile. That represents all the players at the table playing out all their tiles. We now proceed to the next round. We move our little wanderer token over here over to the next rock. Everyone retrieves their action tokens. And in the solo game, we take the action tokens played by Rover and we shuffle them in with all the ones that weren't played previously. Give those a quick shuffle. So they're nice and randomized. Plop them back up there and continue with round 2. Rover goes first. He will take a 3, purple 3, means he goes over there, and he takes this card. into his pile. And now it's my turn. Now, I can play this landscape here because I have 3 leaves and a tree currently visible. I can play my fence because I have a tree with a leaf. I will also be able to play this little berry over here, which could be quite handy. Ooh, I've just spotted something. I'm going to take my number 1 tile over here. I'm going to get this little souvenir. What is this souvenir? This is... I have no idea what that is. A weird looking twig. Not quite sure how that's a souvenir, but oh well. The reason I took that is because it has a tree requirement. And how these souvenirs work is you'll see the cost of them shows a landscape type. So you'll see this card, which I'm going to play now, into my little landscape area. The cost for this one is a tree, 3 leaves, and 1 of these road tiles. So now I'll flip that over to represent that it has been used. And now to play this souvenir card, I need to have a landscape tile and a tree somewhere in my tableau. Because clearly I pluck that little twig thing, or pluck it off the tree, probably pick it up from the ground. I don't think we're destroying things in this game, we're just observing and collecting what is lying about. Righto, Rover's turn. A boom. He's going to go number 1. He's going to go over there. He's going to take that. No points for Rover today. Okay, now we have a beetle. That's the first beetle that's shown up. Oh wait, there's been a beetle there for a while. So that beetle would let me play this birdie if I had them both. Let's see. I would like to play this little souvenir card, although I think I would rather get some of these other cards in play because these are going to give me symbols that help me with these, whereas this is just adding to points at the end of the game. So maybe that beetle is rather attractive. Yes, it is. Okay, so the only way I can get that beetle is if I use my wild or my 4. I think I'll use my 4. I'm struggling to find the stuff I need for these over here, but oh well. We'll use my 4 and we'll get this beetle into my hand, replace it. And now I can play something. I could play this bunny rabbit. I could play this fence, or I could play this beetle. I still can't play my mushrooms just yet, because I still have not found that landscape type. It is somewhere in this deck. That's where this tile would come in quite handy, because it lets you draw 3 cards from there and pick one. You still might not get the card you need, but you can try. I think I shall play this beetle, because then that's giving me the symbols I need to play one of these birds a bit later, and it's giving me the terrain type I need to play this house. Aha! And let's put beetle over there, and it is Rover's turn. Rover will go to purple number 1, and Rover just took the house I was eyeing up. How rude. And I'm not really spending much time dwelling on it, I'm afraid, but the art in this game is truly stunning. It's got this beautiful watercolor vibe. You could just gaze at it for hours on end. In fact, I think a lot of these pieces could do well to be blown up and put as prints up on your wall. Let's take a birdie, because birdies like to eat bugs, and I have quite a few bugs for them to come swoop down and collect. Let's take this birdie, because I got my number 2 available, into my hand, replace it with that card. And now I still have options. I could play my fence, I could play my bunny rabbit, or I could play my bird. And again, what will help me decide that is what cards are available out on the display and what cards I have in my hand. So if I can play something from my hand that then lets me play another card from my hand in a subsequent turn, that's always a good way to go. I'm going to just play this birdie over here, and this birdie is going to go nest in this tree over there, with an eye shot of that little beetle over there. Okie dokie. End of my turn. Rover goes again. Boom. They want to go over here. They can't, so tick, 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 clockwise around until they find an open spot. They take that flower. Replenish. Ooh, there's a mushroom. I want that mushroom. I definitely want that mushroom because that mushroom is a lot easier to play than this one because this terrain is just not coming up. So I'm going to use my wild tile, and I'm going to play it over here to represent a 4. I'm going to grab this mushroom, and the reason I have not been using these bottom half bonus tiles over here is simply because you can only place one of these bonus tiles in these spaces when you use one of these actions. So it's optimal to use one of these actions over here when you have the right configuration to actually score one of those bonuses. Okay, so now that's in my hand. I'm not going to play it just yet, because as you can see, it needs a tree, as does my fence. But what I am going to do is, if I were to play this over here, I'd be covering up that tree, which means I wouldn't be able to play my fence or this souvenir. So first, I'm going to play this souvenir over here, covering up my landscape over there. Now I have not covered up the tree that I need for these 2 cards. Now in a subsequent turn, I can play this fence over here, or over here, still not covering up the tree, and then I can still play the mushroom. So the order in which you play your cards can matter quite a lot. Rover's turn. Rover has a yellow 2, yellow 2. He's going to take those berries that I could have played, but I got distracted by other things. Oh, look, some more berries that I definitely can't play. And now it's my turn. So I have cards in hand that I can play, so I'm not going to use this 3 to go here and collect cards from the deck. That's always a good thing to do when you are stuck with cards in your hand that you can't play unless you have specific requirements met. And number 3 would let me collect this if I put it over here. I could collect this if I put it over here. I could collect this fence if I put it over there. None of those are terribly exciting. So maybe I will use it to collect from there, but then I'm not playing a card. As you can see, this gets rather clogged up as the game progresses, and this is where it would have been handy to have my number 1 available to be able to place it there and collect any card from here. So I'm not going to play a card with it. I'm going to place my number 3 up there, and I'm going to draw 3 cards and pick one to keep. I think I'm going to draw 3 cards from this east deck because I'm needing specific terrain types and they're not revealing themselves. So let's see, we still didn't get them. Oh my. Okay, well here's the first froggy I've seen for a while. So if I have that froggy, then I'll be able to play that snake, because what you can see here on this snake card, whenever it has a slash like that, it's either or. So this snake needs a paw print or a bird, and a beetle or a amphibian. You need 2 of the 4 resources shown there, basically. So I think I will keep the froggy in my hand. The rest of these will go to the bottom of the deck. That was the end of my turn. That is the end of the round. We retrieve our tokens, and we retrieve these for Rover. Shuffle them back into his deck. And I shall play out one more round, and then I'll show you how the hourglass timing works. So I'm going to go through this next round a little bit quicker, if I can. Try to keep my AP under control. So, Rover goes first. He flips over a tile. Okay, question mark. Whenever he draws one of his question mark tiles, it goes over to this board, thereby blocking up spaces that I could potentially occupy. I forgot to move our Wanderer marker over. And now I can play a tile. I don't have a house. If I had a house in my hand that I could play, what I would do right now is play this 4 over here, because this would let me play 2 cards. If I could play a house and a mushroom, then I could complete that. However, I have the mushrooms, I don't have the house, because no houses are visible, and he took the only one that I could have built, or seen. You don't build anything, you're just seeing stuff. So, let me draw cards from here, because the house was in this deck. So I think there's more houses in this deck than in these two. So if I draw one of these cards, I don't really like any of those cards though. Okay, I'm going to keep my life a bit more simple, and I'm just going to use my 3 over there to get birdie over here into my hand, because I have everything I need to play birdie. And then I'm going to start working towards this mushroom and hope that a house reveals itself at some point. Except I'm not going to do that just yet. I'm going to first play this fence, and I'm going to play it over there. Right, because now I have not covered up the tree that I need for this mushroom. Okay, Rover's turn. He goes again. Number 2 over there. And as you can see, he takes this card. These little discs here are for the 3 colors not used in the solo game. And they're little discs so that each time you play, it'll be a little bit more random. So these colors won't always be in the same spots. Okay, replenish, and my turn again. Okay, little squirrel. I could play little squirrel if I played this little froggy first. Let's see, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I've got room down here for some more terrain cards to be played. I think I like the look of little squirrel. I prefer little squirrel to snaky boy. Although, if I'm thinking ahead, it would be smart to get the snake first, because then I can play the squirrel on the snake in a later turn. I definitely want to get this mushroom in play, so I think let's work on that. Nothing else in my hand needs trees. So I will use number 2 over here, and I will grab the little squirrel fellow, even though it's smarter to play it the other way around. I don't really like the look of that snaky boy. I'd much rather have a little squirrel in my area. I'm going to play my mushrooms. Now I've got my mushroom at the ready. Has to go on a tree. So now I just need to find a house. So here's hoping that Rover takes something from this column and reveals a house. What you going to do, Rover? You are not going to help me. You are going to go over there and you're going to take that. That is not helpful. Right then. Okay, so maybe I now have what I need to play this landscape, because I've got the mushrooms at last, but I don't have a road tile. And I've played my 2, which is the tile that lets me get road tiles from here. So I could play my wild card and get 2 road tiles, but then I still don't have the house I need to complete one of the bonus goals there. So I'd rather draw cards and play cards than go here and just draw cards. So I think what I'm going to do is I am going to go over here after all. I'm going to go here with my 4, because I'm not wild about any of the cards out here currently. And I'm going to play 2 cards from my hand. I'm going to play this amphibian fellow. Let's play that over there. And then. There's nothing else really wanting amphibians, and there's another amphibian thingy over there, so I'm going to play the squirrel on the amphibian. Or on the caterpillar, but I'm not going to cover up the caterpillar because I want the caterpillar for this birdie. Okay, end of turn. Rover gets to go. Rover wants to go there. They can't, so they go to the next clockwise spot. They take this card. They are intent on not helping me reveal any houses. They're not being very helpful. Not at all. Okay, a 1 and a wild. A 1 and a wild. Maybe I just use the wild up over here. I'll use it as if it's a 2, and I'll get 2 of these road tiles to get some more landscapes in play, because I can play this landscape, and then there's a landscape over here that I can play as well if I draw it later. And that was my turn. I don't play any cards when you do that. They want to place over here. They can't, so that is simply discarded. Now, I will take this landscape with my number 1 into my hand. I will play this landscape, because that is worth more points. Flip over that road tile, and that is the end of round 3. So now, before we proceed to round 4, we move our marker into this hourglass space. Everyone retrieves their tiles. Solo player retrieves their tiles. And we'll shuffle those up momentarily. And now, all of these cards go away and get refreshed. So all of these west cards get discarded. All of these south cards get discarded. And while I'm doing this, I will add that the game does not come with these card sleeves that everything is tucked in. This was a after the fact addition of mine to keep these cards nice and pristine. And then we will replenish these rows. So we will replenish all the west cards. So this basically simulates there's a house, there's the house, there's 2 houses. Haha! Okay, I need that card. And then we don't replenish the middle column here with south cards. We replace the south deck with the north deck. Those pop in over here, and now you can see these have got more of a variety. There's that first predator that we need for the campfire over there. And these typically are more valuable points-wise. You see they're like all 3s and 4s. And they're a little bit more complicated to acquire. They have higher requirements. And then, after refreshing everything, he moves over, we give Rover a shuffle, and play continues. And we'll keep doing this for 3 more rounds and compare our final score at the end. And I think I'm going to wrap it up there, even though the house I need has just been revealed. Watch him randomly snaffle it up from under me. But I'm going to stop there, I think. And that has given you a pretty good sense of the gameplay. One thing that I always forget about, and I've just remembered it now, is when you go to play a card into your tableau, you can always discard 2 cards from your hand to make up for 1 missing resource. So for instance, if I wanted to play this mushroom, if I hadn't found that other one and I was desperate to play a mushroom to get the requirements I need for this to get my final 4-point token out, for instance, and let's say I've got the leaf but I don't have this marshland symbol, I can discard 2 cards from my hand to play this on a leaf symbol and ignore 1 of the cost requirements of that card. It's not optimal to do that naturally because you're essentially throwing away other points, potentially, unless of course you've got a couple of these cards. But it can be a pretty useful thing if you're really in a jam and it's going to net you a lot of points by doing so. So at the end of the game, any cards left in your hand don't count for anything. So again, that's a useful thing to do near the end. If you've got some dud cards in your hand and there's only 1 or 2 turns left, you might want to burn them to play something else. Then everyone will simply look at the points on their cards. Everywhere you see this little leaf symbol, you've got 2. So right now I have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 16, 19 points. And playing the solo game, you will look at Rover's deck and tally up all the points on his cards. So right now he's got 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 16, 17, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26. So he has significantly more points than me right now. But I will be getting points pretty quickly in these last few rounds because I would start getting these. I'd probably find a way to get this predator here, get that little set, etc. And there you have Meadow. A lovely little relaxing, beautiful game to unwind on a Sunday afternoon and just soak up some beautiful art, soak up some nature, and recharge before a week starts. Or in the middle of a week. Do this at the end of a long day to just relax and have some lovely, relaxing time collecting cards and looking at pretty pictures. And with that, I shall say thank you ever so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the show. And remember to spread the joy of tabletop gaming.